What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Better Than Rich show. I'm your host, Andrew Biggs, and I'm here with my co-host, Mike Abramowitz. Good morning to you all, and we are so excited that you've decided to spend this morning with us, or if you're listening back to the recording, whatever time you're listening to this, whether you're on the drive or you are just enjoying a nice cup of coffee by a fire, wherever you're at in this world, we're glad you're here. Mike, what's going on this morning?
Morning. I'm at my mother-in-law's house and here in beautiful Jacksonville, and
Nice, nice.
already went in the pool this morning. Did my workout, feeling good, and it's already a great morning. Anytime you could start the day before the sun comes up, it's a good morning, in my opinion.
There you go. There you go. And that's actually something we're going to be talking about today. By the way, guys, we did figure out the comments feature. So if you guys have comments or questions, we are able to bring in your questions here on the show live. So if you do have something you want to talk about, feel free to mention it in the comments and we will jump on it if it is sufficiently relevant to the show. But yeah, Mike, I mean, that's actually really good that you brought that up about diving in the pool this morning and getting things started before the sunrise, because today we're going to be talking about energy management and the importance of energy management. What is energy management? It's been said that energy management is actually more important than time management, and I tend to agree. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But when you think about energy, Mike, how do you start to think about energy? How do you relate to energy? Why is energy important? Start us off here, man. What are you thinking around energy, and where do you want to dive in to start today?
I mean, the first thing that comes up, it's like there's so many times in the past where I wouldn't feel like doing something, or it's like I hit the roadblock in the middle of the day where it's just the only thing I want to do is take a nap or just chill on the couch. So the way I think about energy management is more of the opposite. It's like what I know, what I feel when I'm like lethargic or when I don't feel like doing stuff or I don't have the energy. And I just think about the activities that I do settle into when I don't have energy. Um, and I think about, do those activities move me closer or further away from the life that I want to have and the goals that I want to achieve and who I am worthy of becoming. So if I don't have energy and that's who I am and that's what I'm doing, then I probably should do the opposite of that. So then what's the opposite of energy management for me is making sure that I can honor my micro days and, my 6 a.m. to noon and my noon to 6 p.m. and my 6 p.m. to midnight and my midnight to 6 a.m. And like, I could just honor my micro days and have enough energy to be able to win each of those micro days with things that are aligned with whatever my priorities are, my goals are.
Totally. So we're going to talk a little bit about energy management strategies. We're going to dive into that pretty heavy today. You mentioned a concept there that I'm sure some people listening at least aren't familiar with. What is a micro day?
I heard this. I got introduced to this during quarantine, during COVID, maybe in March. I was listening to Ed Milet podcast, and he was talking about the concept of the micro day. And I'm sure it's been around before then and whatever, but that's when I got introduced to it. And I said, wow, this is kind of what I'm already doing unintentionally, but let me get really intentional. And the concept was 3xing your time. So if everyone is doing, like, say they're getting 5 things done in a day, well, that means they're only doing 7 days worth of 5 things. So it's 35 things a week. Where if you could do a micro day within a day where you're getting 5 things done in a micro day, it means you're getting 15 things done within 3 micro days. And then the fourth micro day is when I sleep. So say I sleep for those 6 to 8 hours. And then I have my 3 micro days where I get my 5 things done. So I'm getting 15 things done in a day times 7 days. I'm 3 times more productive than the average person. And that's what was happening for me during March. I was very intentional with, all right, what are the 5 outcomes I want to get done before noon? And then I would have like a little recess. And then it was like, all right, what are my 5 outcomes I want to get done before 6 p.m.? And then I would have my little recess. And what are the outcomes I want to get done before I go to bed? Then I have my recess. And what are the outcomes that I want to do during that fourth micro day? Is nothing because I'm sleeping. But that
So
was
you
the
sleep the whole
concept.
day on the fourth day? Are you like God creating the earth here? Like what happens on the fourth day?
The fourth micro day is when I am zonked out and sleeping because it is typically from midnight to 6 a.m. So
Oh, okay.
it's usually, yeah,
I,
it's
I for some
usually
reason
like,
was interpreting it like you took a full day, and
no, no,
okay,
no.
fourth
It's
micro day you sleep.
the
Okay,
fourth micro day is
got
that
it.
midnight to 6 a.m. Usually for me, it was about like 10:30 or 11 o'clock till about 5:45 or 6 a.m. So that
Sure.
was like that fourth micro day. So it wasn't exactly like that 6 hour interval, but that was the concept and how it was introduced to me. And it's been revolutionary for me. Even today,
Right.
just started my day. I didn't have to, wake up, before 6 and do a workout and do fit in a micro day this morning. But it's just so habitual at this point from doing it for so many months that,
Why not?
yeah.
Right.
And believe me, I tried to convince myself. We could talk about that a little bit after, but those voices tried to sabotage me this morning for sure.
Sure. Sure. So basically, the concept for everyone listening is you split your days into 4 separate hours, or so 4 separate micro days of 6 hours, right? So maybe it's midnight to 6, 6 to 12, 12 to 6, 6 to 12 on the PM side. Basically, breaking that down so that you can be really efficient in those 6 hours. And it also kind of works if you want to have a particular focus for that micro day. I find so many people want to switch tasks often, right? And so, this is just an important concept for you all to understand. But distraction is a killer of your energy, and it's a killer of your focus. So every time we get distracted from our work, whatever it is that we're focused on or what we're supposed to be focused on for that time, whenever a distraction comes in, it's going to take us another 20 minutes to get back into the level of focus that we were in before the distraction came in. This is why you have to manage your notifications. If you're not doing that, write that down. Put that into your notes app or whatever it is. But you have to manage your notifications so that you're not getting interrupted when you don't want to get interrupted. Basically, the only notifications I have on are text messages or certain things that are more urgent from certain people. And if that's not the case for you, you should really look into how you can manage your notifications better so you're not distracted. So basically, we've already talked about micro days, breaking things down, getting 5 things done in 6 hour intervals that get you 15 things done in a day. And also, I want to give like a larger frame about energy. When we think about energy more globally, and not to get all, spiritual or metaphysical on you, but you are energy. You are energy, obviously. Every single cell in your body is moving. Every single atom in your body is moving. Every single proton, electron, neutron is moving around at a certain frequency, at a certain rate. They are moving, man. And energy is really what you are at the deepest level. And of course, we can also talk about what you are, from a consciousness, metaphysical level. But from a physical level, you are energy. And so you have to be paying attention to what your energy is and what you're bringing to every single interaction, because if you want to be influential, you need to have energy. You need to have a higher quality energy, a cleaner energy, a more focused energy, a more directed energy than others. And you have to be able to bring that in every single day if you want to be successful. So understand that you are energy, and how you manage your energy matters. And kind of another frame to kind of look at this is there's physical energy, there's emotional energy, there's mental energy, and then there's spiritual energy. And my goal on a daily basis is to ask myself, am I in alignment with my physical, my emotional, my mental energy, and my spiritual energy? And if any single one of those is a little off, you could almost imagine it like children's blocks, and they build 4 blocks on top of each other. If one of them is slightly askew or slightly off, then my energy is not in alignment, and I need to do what I need to do to get that physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual energy back in alignment with that sort of pillar. And if I can, then I'm going to have a good day. If I can't, then sometimes I'm a little off. Mike, what do you think about these concepts that you are energy, and you think about physical, emotional, mental, spiritual? What's coming up for you?
Yeah, I can physically feel drawing out the energy within me on command. So the concept of that we are energy is, in my opinion, is proven because I have witnessed myself drawing it out on command when I need it. Certain types of energy. So, for example, if you need to draw out calmness, there's a way and certain breathing techniques that you can activate calmness. If you need to bring out more adrenaline, like that adrenaline rush of like going in a cold, like for me, going in a cold shower or going into an ice bath, I need to draw out and bring out more of adrenaline, that rush of energy. So there's different types of energetic that we need to be able to command ourselves to be able to bring out and bring to the surface. And that's where I have realized, through whether it be calm or whether it be through like a large adrenaline rush, I've been able to call that energy forward. And they're opposite ends of the spectrum. Sometimes it's drawing compassion, that the energy of connection and that heart energy that needs to be called forward. So the self-awareness and giving the mind and body a chance to connect with one another, to be able to be in tune to call forward what energy is needed in that moment, is really what allows an individual to be a person of influence.
Totally. So let's talk about strategies. What are some of your strategies? We talked about micro days, but we talked a little bit about morning routine. Do you want to walk us through some of your strategies, and I can walk through some of mine? How do you manage your energy, and how do you make sure that your energy is on point on a daily basis?
So I know people around me know when I did not do my morning routine. Let's put it that way. So if I don't do some sort of morning routine, there's a tendency for it to be ugly and messy towards the middle part of the day. I had a conversation yesterday with a student that I'm coaching, and I said, "What's your morning routine?" She said, "Well, I brush my teeth and I put my clothes out and I get dressed and I shower." And I said, "That is a morning routine. There's no doubt about it." Um, and so I bought her Hal Elrod's book, The Miracle Morning, and mailed it to her. So I said, and I introduced her to a very simple Savers concept that was introduced to me when Hal created it. Savers stands for silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. So it's a very great morning routine. I definitely recommend. And I've done my own versions of those routines. I had my hashtag BMW breathe, meditate, walk for quite some time. The morning routine that I've been doing now for this year, for 2020, has been serving me very well. And it's been very intentional. And that starts with me making sure that when I set that alarm at nighttime, I visualize myself getting up. So it starts with the evening. I set the alarm and I remind myself of why I'm setting that alarm in the first place. So it starts there. So I do math in my head and I think, okay, I want to make sure that I at least at bare minimum getting 6.5 hours of sleep, but I'd like to shoot for closer to 7 or 7.5 if I can, but 6.5 hours. So I'll do the math and I'll make sure that I'm giving myself ample sleep. So then I set the alarm. I have a conversation with myself that says, okay, why am I setting this alarm in the first place? What am I waking up to get accomplished? Okay, these are I want to get accomplished, these conversations, this meeting, this is how I want to feel, this is what I want to get accomplished tomorrow. Great. So I get that into my head. So I want that to program my mind. Like I want that to be the last thing that I'm thinking about in my unconscious before I go to bed. So I'm thinking about waking up. I'm thinking about waking up on purpose to get some things done and to be a better version of me for the next day. The alarm goes off and it is ugly. The alarm goes off and it is like, shit already. Like this sucks. There's always that first initial response. The second response is, hey, you set the alarm in the first place, remember? I always put the phone on the opposite side of the room. So I have to get myself out of bed. I go grab the phone, shut the alarm off, and I, like a freaking zombie, walk to chug water. I always have water set aside, and I chug water as my first thing to just bring some energy or oxygen to my body.
Hey, quick question. What's an example of an intention you might set before you go to bed? Because I love that concept of it, setting an intention before you even go to sleep, which a lot of people don't do. What is an example of what that might look like for somebody who's listening?
So For me, I do several activities in the morning. So a lot of my mornings include meetings or conversations with people, or a certain emotion that I need to make sure I'm bringing for those meetings. So specific examples. Today, I have a staff meeting. It's a 90-minute meeting with my staff, and it's a very important meeting. So before I went to bed last night, what energy I needed to bring to my staff, because I'm going on vacation for a week. I wanted to bring more directiveness, and I also wanted to bring in more curiosity, because I want to make sure that I'm leading with questions that they're able to come up with some of their own responses. But I also wanted to give direction, so that way they don't rely, or they're not dependent on reaching out to me. So I wanted to make sure, okay, I want to bring curiosity and I want to bring directiveness to my meeting tomorrow morning.
Nice.
Yesterday, I knew I had 11 or 12 one-on-one conversations. So I wanted to make sure I brought the right energy. So before bed, I just wanted to make sure that the self-talk I had yesterday is like, cool, I want to challenge myself in the morning. So that way, when I have conversations with them, I'm not leading from hypocrisy or projecting onto them. So that's why I walked to the gym instead of drove to the gym, because I wanted to make sure that I brought like that extra challenge energy. So I set my alarm for 15 minutes earlier, so I had time to walk to the gym instead of drive to the gym, to do the little bit extra that I normally won't do. So I'm not projecting any like, you should do more type of energy onto my people. So because I'm willing to do more, so I can project like, hey, I'm doing more. I invite you to do more. It's actually not that much more difficult, but is much more gratifying and satisfying. So that's
Mm,
just a couple of examples.
that's great. I love the idea of being congruent, right? And ultimately, when we're talking about energy management, um, congruency is ultimately the goal. And by the way, if you're listening to this, you're like, yeah, I know I should have a morning routine. Yeah, I know I should have an evening routine. I've heard this before. You should also be asking yourself, well, am I doing it? To what extent am I actually putting these practices into place? Because the truth is that we could almost say that unless you've taken your understanding to the level of implementation, unless something that you have learned is actually changing your behavior, you haven't yet learned it. And that's kind of a better than rich concept there at a really deep sort of principled level is, well, you don't know something until it's changed your perspective and to the point where you've actually implemented change in your life, till it's actually transformed your life. So if you are listening and you're thinking to yourself that I've heard this before, well, you got to ask yourself, to what extent am I doing it, and how much am I actually implementing this? So I love the intention of congruency. And in a way, that sort of alignment idea that I was talking about is very much, I think that maps really well to the idea of congruency. I like to say congruency is king. And the truth is that my perception is that people are very intuitive. People can kind of understand what passes the smell test and what doesn't. People can obviously understand, is this person being real with me or not? And is this person, living the way they are reporting to live or not? And if we're not, then people are going to tell, right? People have really good BS meters these days, and they can read through the lines and they can smell you from a mile away if you're being phony. And so it's your job to make sure that you're being congruent on a regular basis. And if you're not, then that's going to be seen, that's going to be felt, and there's going to be ramifications. The truth is sometimes I'm more on than others, and I feel like, people can pick up on that. I bet you can probably relate. You were talking this morning about not wanting to do your morning routine. And it's like, that's kind of okay. And also, the truth is, as long as you're honest with yourself, you're going to be able to bounce back. But at the same time, if you want to be a badass like Mike, you got to at least start these processes and try to win more days than you don't. Try to win more micro days than you don't. And if you can, you're going to find yourself much further along than you are today. Mike, talk to me a little bit about that. How do you handle this when you don't feel like waking up in the morning, when you don't feel like doing your morning routine? Talk to me, man.
Well, first off, I've had to label the voices in my head. Now this sounds super weird.
All right, we'll call the psychiatrist on you. We'll get you checked out, man. Don't worry.
So the saboteurs. So it's important for you to understand that there are saboteurs that try to sabotage your daily behavior. That's 100%. And if we're not aware that those 50,000 thoughts that are coming through our mind oftentimes aren't our thoughts, that they're just here to kind of, they're already programmed into our mind, I can label them. And what's interesting is this morning, it happened twice, two specific, well, it happened way more, but two specific ones. When the alarm went off and when I went to jump in the pool. The pool was a little bit cold this morning, and she has a pool here. So when I went on, the first thought is like, oh my God, this sucks. I don't want to wake up. And that voice is I call that the shithead. All right, you could call it whatever you want, but that's what I call it. It's like the shithead voice that's like, screw
Nice.
you, tries to get in my way. Classy, right? Then there's the other voice that tries to protect me. This is the voice that's like, you might get sick, the water's really cold, like,
Mm.
and that voice I'm more gentle with. I call that voice is wimpy. So wimpy shows up all the time. Wimpy is like my mother. Okay, wimpy is like,
Mm-hmm.
when I
Mm-hmm.
was like real young, my mom would try to protect me and coddle me. Like, that's wimpy. It's like, you don't want to get pneumonia, you don't want to get sick, the water's really cold, what if, all that stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
all I do with that voice is I smile and I say, thank you. Thank you for caring. Thank you for loving me. And I'm going to be good. And I go walk into the water and I go in and I underneath the water and I'm fully exposed. My arms are out and I'm just like, thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. And I'm not going to die. And like,
Mm-hmm.
literally a conversation going in my mind. Sometimes even I say these words especially if I'm by myself, no one's around, but to acknowledge that, hey, it's trying to protect me, but I don't need protection right now.
Mm.
I don't need protection right now. So that's number one. How do you need to know what the truth is. And sometimes those little saboteur voices try to convince themselves that they're the truth, but that's not the truth. The truth is that I want these goals. The truth is I have a higher purpose. The truth is I'm capable. So all those feelings and thoughts and emotions, those are limiting in a lot of cases. And I don't want to live a life where I'm limited by saboteurs influencing my behavior. I'm capable of choosing consciously what I'm actually able to do. I'm not going to die. Thank you for trying to protect me. And I'm going to go ahead and jump in the cold pool. And
Mm.
I'm going to wake up and start my day. And I'm going to, tell this person I care about them. Even though it feels weird, I'm going to do that. Even though it's uncomfortable, I'm going to look at my affirmations. I'm going to look at my goals. And even though some of them are large goals, like having $1 million before I'm 40, that's a big goal. It's like, oh my
Mm.
gosh, but the fact is, I've been looking at that number now and it's cool to just kind of work my way towards it, almost halfway there, which is pretty exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And but when I first set the goal, it's like, yeah, right, good luck, your family never did that, no one, like that's not
Mm-hmm.
all that stupid saboteur voices, give up, like that's silly. So I think that's important. Number one is label those voices, as
Mm.
weird as it sounds.
I love that, man. I love the shithead and wimpy. So for some reason, I think my camera is frozen. But basically, I love the idea here, and just getting back to this idea. Having this little conversation also requires self awareness. How do you develop self awareness? What do you see there?
Yeah, so in order to develop self-awareness, I think it's important for you to be able to sit with yourself and just observe the thoughts that are coming into your mind. So, some people call this meditation. You might call this stillness, whatever you want to call it. It's just a practice of sitting with myself and observing my thoughts. So, like, a thought will come in. Why am I doing this right now? And I'll let that thought just go by. Like, imagine watching a movie, and the movie are your thoughts. Oh, my back hurts right now. It's like, and I understand, and thank you. Like, I'm hungry. I understand, and thank you. And like, just watching the thoughts go by, and being the observer of these thoughts that come in and come out. And sometimes those thoughts are serving. Sometimes those thoughts are not serving. And if they're not serving me in that moment, I just let them go. I release. I can't even see what happens is I can't pinpoint some of the thoughts that come through because I release them, because it's almost like I let them go. I let go of them. So for me to give you an example of something, I was trying to, in a, for right now, but I let a lot of those thoughts go. And sometimes those thoughts are about conversations I've had. Sometimes those thoughts are about feeling inadequate on something. Sometimes those thoughts are about not having confidence for something. Sometimes those thoughts are, you know, some sort of fear of like, am I good enough? Am I going to be able to do that? Does this person like me? Am I approaching this the right way? Questioning. Sometimes those are those thoughts, and I just release those thoughts, release them, release them. But the ones that I hold on to are more so, how can I serve this person? Sometimes it's like that, the curiosity comes in, or I'm really proud that I made that choice, and I'll feel that feeling of like pride and self-love, um, because I'm aware, I'm giving myself the space to feel aware and see those thoughts and let some of them go by, and then hold on to other ones. And I think that's a really important way of approaching that inner self-talk.
So hopefully my
Uh,
camera is at least somewhat working here. I think it is. But
Yeah, you're back. I can see you.
okay, cool.
It's not split screen. It's just you, and then there's me.
Cool. So if you guys can relate, go ahead and mention this in the chat. How Mike is kind of talking about watching your thoughts, right? And I love the idea of your thoughts are something on the screen, and somebody who I really respect and admire in this space of awareness is a man named Muji. You can check him out online. He's totally changed and revolutionized my life in a lot of ways. He has some really cool content, some really deep content. It's a little out there, but I think you guys would like it. And, he says, hey, if your thoughts are on this movie screen and you're watching it, if there's a raging fire on the screen at the movie theater, the screen is not burned. If there's a rushing river on the movie screen, the screen is not wet. And ultimately, what he's talking about is, these thoughts are projections on top of a layer of consciousness. You are not the projection, you are the consciousness watching it. And so if you can be sure to sit back and watch and observe, then you can actually see, oh, there goes this saboteur, right? There's the wimpy version of me, or there's this childhood version of me, or there's the immature version of me, or whatever. And you can start to label these ideas, start to label these parts of you, and have a conversation with yourself, like Mike said, and ultimately say, hey, I love you, I appreciate you. I know that you're scared right now, and I know that you want to kind of lead, but here's the thing. You can come along for the ride, but you got to sit in the back seat because I'm driving, because we are going somewhere that really matters. And unfortunately, you're not the best driver because you're too concerned. And we need to get to our destination, and that means I need to drive. Sometimes my son, who's 5 years old, wants to drive the car. And obviously I have to say, hey, you're more than welcome to come along for the ride. I love you. You can't drive yet because you're not mature enough yet. You're not ready yet. But you can still come along for the ride. I need to drive because I'm the leader here. And I think that this is so important. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about physical.
Can I echo something there?
Yeah.
Just to echo, those thoughts are not negative. I think that's important too. Oftentimes we might label these like wimpy is not negative. It actually is quite serving, because that version of me is here to protect me. And sometimes I need that. Like if I'm if someone with a gun starts with a machine gun starts shooting around me, wimpy, I need wimpy to protect me. That's a very important
Right.
version of me. So I don't want to say, hey, wimpy, you're negative. It's just you're not serving right now. Like I don't need you in this moment. But like Andrew, just what you just said is, you could come along with the ride. You could come along for the ride. Hey, but you got to be in the back seat. You're just not driving this time. I'm in control. Real me. The truth is in control. So that's kind of like my alter ego is the truth. So Mike, Mike is me, but Mike was the name that I was given by my parents. When I say the truth, That's my like identity. The truth is I can observe Wimpy. The truth observes Wimpy. The truth observes Shithead. And it sounds interesting, but when you can get to that place of self-awareness where you could be the observer of your saboteurs, and you could be the observer of the movie screen, and you can label it, it's liberating. It's liberating.
Awesome.
So I just wanted to echo that.
Awesome. And, we've talked a little bit about spiritual. We talked a little bit about mental. I'd love to talk about physical and emotional a little bit more. From a physical perspective, one thing that I just will share is you don't need to be a gym rat. You don't need to, have a six pack. You don't have to, only drink green drinks or whatever to take care about your physical energy. You can simply have a plan to make sure that you have the energy you need when it's time to go, right? And so, one thing I'll just say there is you need to have some sort of physical plan. I don't care what it is, but have a plan for your diet, have a plan for your exercise. If for the very least you're going to start to work on your discipline, and you're not going to let yourself go. And you're going to have the energy you need when you need it, which is ultimately why we even care about our energy, is because we need energy at certain points. And if you have a purpose, if you have a mission in this world, which here at Better Than Rich we believe you do, then you have to care about your energy and be able to call on it when it's needed to fulfill your purpose. So from a physical perspective, at a minimum, you need to be working out 3 times a week. I don't care what your workout is, but you need to be getting your heart rate up somehow, some way. We really need to be asking ourselves, obviously in this modern era, we're able to sit back and kind of be comfortable and drive everywhere and do everything and have food on demand and drinks on demand. Whatever we want, we have. We're very, very comfortable. But we got to ask ourselves, can I really have some self-respect for myself if I'm not getting my heart rate up 3 times a week? Even if you're just going for a walk for 20 minutes, like that's at least a start. Again, Mike mentioned this yesterday, talking about, hey, what can I control? What can I do? And if that's all you can do, great. If you can only do 10 minutes, great. But do something, get started, because again, just from a self-respect perspective, you are going to want to, it feels good. It feels like you've accomplished something. So making sure that you're getting your heart rate up at least 3 times a week. Obviously some people on the listening to this call will want to do it more than that, but I think at a bare minimum, that's important. From a diet perspective, you also need to be watching what you put into your body and making sure that it's really enriching and that your body really enjoys it. So checking out that stuff and making sure that you have some sort of plan is really at a base level what you need to do. Mike, why don't you talk a little bit about physical, what some of your practices are?
So my current practices are 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday, without fail. I just finished my 200th workout so far for the year.
Nice.
Excuse me. And it's been really serving. And I like what you said about discipline, because when I'm able to have the discipline to do the workout in the morning, it allows me to be a little bit tougher later on in the day with other people who might not be disciplined, because I'm like, hey, I'm disciplined for myself. Let me bring that type of energy to my future conversations, not to project I'm great, you are not. It's like I can relate. Like I had that same conversation with myself about not wanting to be disciplined. So I relate to you. This is what I told myself. This is how I was able to overcome that. And this is what I did about it. So that's why I love the four days a week. So 4 days a week, I have some dumbbells like I just did this morning. So I have 20-pound dumbbells I just brought with me on this vacation that I'm on, and some curls, hammer curls, some triceps, some overhead triceps, side planks, and some leg lifts. That was it. The whole workout might have been maybe 25 minutes, 3 sets of 12 type of thing, 3 sets of 15 on each. And that was today. Sometimes it's body squats, sometimes it's jumping jacks, sometimes it's push-ups, sometimes it's chin-ups. I have a chin-up bar at home, whatever it might be. But what's interesting is that in January, I would just hang from the chin-up bar. I couldn't even do one. Couldn't pull myself up. I would just hang there. Um, and it's cool to now be able to do 10. Just the progress of working through this. And it's the goal wasn't necessarily to lose weight. The goal was to increase strength. And that concept there, in just that little flip of the switch. I had a conversation actually in San Francisco with Andrew Evans, and I was trying to like eliminate back pain. I was trying to, become more flexible. I was trying to, maybe lose weight. Or, he said, it's interesting. Is like, a lot of what you're saying is you want to lose stuff. What do you want to gain? I was like, well, I want to gain some strength. He's like, cool, focus on that. What do you want to gain by working out, or gain by doing what you're doing? And it was just such a small, insignificant conversation, but it's like, wow, yeah, that's a good point. So I want to become more strong. I want to increase my strength. I want to increase my energy. What if that's why I work out? So that concept is important. So a lot of body weight, tension. You could even if you're like, don't have weights, you could do a dynamic tension where you take this hand and move it down, and this arm is moving up. And you could do dynamic tension where it's just you're pushing against and pushing against, and that could work the arms. You could just go to like a vanity in the bathroom and just do push-ups on the vanity in a bathroom. These are simple exercises that my dad is 79 years old, and he does to this day. Every single day he does these simple exercises that you could do. You could like a little chair dip. He'll do some of those. Dynamic tension workouts, squats that just quarter squats, even depending on what you're able to do. But yeah, something to increase the heart rate, something to create some sort of motion with my body. I foam roll once or twice a week. I think that's really important for just to loosen up some of those muscles, break up some of the fascia, or fascia, however you say that word, but just underneath the skin, that layer there, just to loosen that up a little bit, so that way I don't get too sore. Even though the soreness is good, just to break up some of that lactic acid. And cold showers have been really helpful. I've been doing those for about three years maybe. So these are just some activities that I do to just increase the heart rate, whether it be the cold, whether it be some sort of exercise, some sort of weight training. That's what's been working for me, and that's what I've been enjoying. Crunches. I have a Bosu ball at home. So I'll do like the weights on the Bosu ball, I'll do crunches on the Bosu ball. And especially with my lower back, I have herniated disc in the lower back. So some of my mobility is limited, but again, I'm able to focus on what I'm able to do, and what I'm not able to do, I just don't.
Awesome. Great advice there. Focus on what you're able to do. If you're not able to do something, don't. And find ways. Don't make excuses, right? There's like a no excuse sort of mentality there, even if it's push-ups against the vanity, or it's just body weight exercise, calisthenics, whatever. There's so much that you can do through some sort of exercise on a daily basis. Talking about moving up the column here a little bit to emotional energy, I did want to make sure that this wasn't overlooked. When it comes to emotional energy, one of the biggest things I really want to advise everyone listening to do, and this is going to sound simple, but it's also very counterintuitive in today's culture. But the biggest thing really is simply to feel your feelings. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? And then just let yourself actually experience directly what it is that you're going through. And, what I found through this practice, and what I found through letting people have a safe space to be able to explore this practice, is that once we actually give ourselves permission to feel our feelings, whether it's anger, whether it's frustration, whether it's sadness, maybe it's apathy, maybe it's guilt or shame. These are some of the more on the lower end of the spectrum emotions that people feel. Once you give yourself that space and that permission to actually feel it, something shifts, something changes. And we talked a little bit about psychological safety on the first episode. If you haven't listened to it yet, you should. In a way, basically what you're doing is you're creating a safe space for your own self in creating this permission to feel your feelings. Again, this sounds very simple, but it's also counterintuitive in today's culture, particularly for men. But if you're feeling guilt, if you're feeling shame, if you're feeling apathy, these are not great feelings to walk around and start your day with. These are not great emotions to be walking around and trying to be an influential person in the world with. If you're feeling anger, frustration, if you're feeling sadness, it happens to everyone. But these are not great emotions to be creating a multi-million-dollar business from. So we need to be asking ourselves, am I going to just carry this around all day, or am I going to handle it? And in a weird way, that's actually a more masculine way to handle it than to walk around pretending that you don't have feelings. It's like, hey, let me get this over with. Let me handle this. Let me address it. And maybe get it over with is maybe, again, a little more hyper masculine. We don't want to necessarily go there. It should take as long as it should take. But giving yourself permission to feel your feelings in the morning, and if that means a little bit of frustration and you got to punch a pillow, or it means that you got to yell at the top of your lungs for yourself, or you got to let out a few tears, whatever it is that you need to do, at least you're attuned to what's happening inside your life, inside your body, and inside your heart. And if you're not doing that, then you're not going to be attuned, and people are going to not going to receive your influence as well. Mike, any thoughts on this emotional side? What are your thoughts here?
Well, I am astrology sign of a Cancer with a rising of a Leo. So that's a water and a fire. So you're
right.
talking.
And just so you know, I don't know much about what you just said. So I know I'm a Cancer as well. But
all that means is water is emotion of just a very emotional type of a sign, and then fire is like the fiery emotion. Water is like the feeling, like just very much in tune, feeling emotion, and then fire is like the fiery emotion, like more of like an aggression and more of like a cry. That's kind of the way of putting it. So both are very, very strong emotions. So I definitely grew up an emotional kid, and thinking that was a bad thing. So what you just said is giving yourself permission to feel. Now, there are certain surroundings in a certain environment that I want to position myself in to feel. I don't think it's necessary for me to activate or access some of those sadness emotions in front of my staff, right? I don't do that. I don't access frustration typically in front of my wife, because I want to serve them. So I'm gonna make sure that I call that, bring that emotion forward and give myself permission to feel that at certain times, usually whether it's in my morning meditation, or if I go away to a retreat, or if I'm in a safe psychological space where I can feel that way, because it's easy for someone to not, number one, know what to say. Like they just don't know the right thing to say at the right time. Number two, they might also cast judgment, which is not necessarily intentionally on their part, but it might put my guard back up now that once I lower it. So I want to make sure that I'm giving myself permission to feel these emotions and access them, but also timing is kind of important to do that as well.
Sure.
That's a thing that shows up for me.
Cool. I love that. And basically it's just, a lot of times vulnerability, authenticity can get misconstrued in the modern world. Vulnerability doesn't mean that you're airing all your dirty laundry out every single time you talk to somebody. It just means that you're willing to share what feels relevant. And I also love what Mike said. It's like, well, I want to serve, right? And sometimes people are vulnerable almost at this like narcissistic level. I don't know if you've ever seen that, Mike, but it's like, look at all my problems. And that's not exactly what we mean when we talk about vulnerability and authenticity. What we're really saying is when it's appropriate to serve this moment. Now, sometimes you need to serve yourself if you're on a retreat or something like that, or you're working in a morning routine. That's the whole idea. Serve yourself first and then go serve someone else. But if I'm trying to serve someone else, my job is not to be, talking about myself and my problems too much. It's really to be there for them. Now, if in that moment it seems appropriate and relevant and helpful for me to share something that's going on in my life and to open up a little bit and be vulnerable, then I'll do so. And I think that people really appreciate that and can relate to that. This next thing, the last thing I want to kind of talk on, Mike, before we depart for the day is journaling. You really strike me as like a journal expert. I love when we have our phone calls and I say, yeah, Mike, if you remember, we had that call way back when. I'm not exactly sure when, but we were talking about this and we were talking about this concept. Yeah, do you remember that? And you're like, yeah, hang on, let me pull up my notes. We talked about that on January 17th, 2017, and this was exactly what you said, and this is exactly how you said it. And I was like, oh, wow, like you're super organized over there, man. So talk to me a little bit about journaling and the importance of it in your world. How do you journal, and what's the importance of it to you?
That's hilarious because it's so true. Only if they were good conversations though, Andrew.
Oh, come on,
I don't
Mike.
remember every page of my journal, but
Every conversation is a good conversation with me, Mike. Come on.
I agree. I agree. So those but it's true. I when I'm actively writing, so a couple things that show up with me with journaling. Um not all journaling is, but the main thing that I get from journaling is answering questions with myself. So it was introduced to me that the physical act of writing it down is bringing the emotional part of my brain to the logical part of the brain. And the physical process of processing emotion to logic and writing it down can offset most of the emotional tension that's happening behind the scenes. Any of the unconscious tension could be resolved just by writing it down because it's unloading some of the emotion that's stuck. And we just by processing it, the physical act of writing, not typing, not texting, but the physical act of writing, there's some sort of mechanism in the body. I don't know the science behind it, but just by writing it down releases some of that emotion. So that's number one. I understood that from a logical standpoint. I said, okay, that makes sense. Let me write. And sometimes all I write it would be like, how do I feel right now? Cool. Why do I feel this way? How do I want to feel? What actions can I take to get there? That's one of my go-tos. Sometimes I write down the word update, question mark, and then I just write. It's just an update of my life. I'm just answering that question. What's an update right now? Some questions I'll answer of who needs my love right now? And I'll just answer that question of like, who do I feel needs my love right now? Like that would just remind me of who is important in my life that I want to make sure that they know I care about them. So these are a couple other questions are, what are my favorite things to do? And I'll just write down all my favorite things to do. When I'm at my best, and I just will fill in the blank and I'll just list off these different things. So a lot of journaling came from me is just asking really good questions and then just answering them. So I took probably my top 50 or 60 favorite questions and I created my own guided journal for myself. So that way I could just flip to any of the pages and answer my questions. And that was really helpful for me. And I shared it with a few people. They're like, wow, you should really offer that to more. So I created a journal and it's on Amazon and it's a guided journal for that reason to help people that just get stuck and they just don't know what to write. So that's my first thing with journaling. The second thing with journaling is to revisit the past. So I went on a mancation a couple weeks ago, went to a dude ranch, and I brought my 2016 journal and I brought my 2019-20 journal, and just revisiting the last 3 or 4 years and just seeing a lot of my goals from 2016 are now a lot of my problems from 2019 and 2020 were my goals in 2016. It was really funny to look at. I'll say that one more time. My problems in 2019 and 2020 were my goals in 2016. So it's just so funny to see that. It was also really great to see the emotional snapshots of what I was working on and what I was thinking and what I was working through in 2016. And seeing in 2019, now I'm teaching, helping other people work through those things. And now it's almost like, not that I became the master of it, but I became so self-aware of a lot of the things that I wanted to work on 3 years later, 4 years later. It gave me so much confidence, and it gave me, it almost like validates the progress, which makes me to want to continue doing it. So it's a snapshot of emotion by journaling and writing it down so I could revisit some of those. I would say my journals are my most prized possessions, more so than my photo albums, because a photo, it just has a picture. But the journal is a photo album of my thoughts, the photo album of my emotions, the photo album of what was actually being felt and happening in that chapter of my life. And I could revisit some of those. And they're by far, I mean, they're priceless possession of mine, are those snapshots of those emotions.
I love that. The photo album of your thoughts is your journals, and they're some of your most prized possessions because of that. That's really beautiful, and it looks like we're getting some love in the comments and the emotions here as well, the reactions. At the end of the day, and I'll kind of leave you all with this concept, but being better than rich, one of the core principles is intentional living. We're talking about energy management today. One of the concepts that everyone learned. I'm going to take you back to 10th grade, physics class or whatever. But the concept is entropy, right? So the natural state of energy is to dissipate in our universe. And so dissipating energy and things falling apart, things decaying, is a natural part of what it means to, exist in this time-space reality. So entropy and the tendency for things to dissipate and things to dissolve is kind of the natural state of things. So our job, I guess what I'm saying there is, your life is going to become, just the living embodiment of entropy. Things are going to go wrong. Things are going to get worse. Things are going to go bad unless you intercede on your own behalf. So it's your job on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, on an annual basis, to engage your life intentionally and take on problems, take on certain perspectives, and drive the narrative for your life. Otherwise, you're simply going to have someone else driving the narrative. You're going to be a victim of circumstance, which obviously you probably know a lot of people who see the world this way. But if you're going to be better than rich, you have to live an intentional life and fend off entropy as much as possible. And what I heard in Mike's comments there when he says, this is how I do it, this is how I do it, this is how I do it, every single step of the way, there's such intentional focus. Does that take a lot of time? Does that take a lot of energy? Of course. But someone who's really committed to their purpose, someone who's really committed to changing the world, someone who's really committed to making this world a better place and not just talking about it on social media, they are committed to living an intentional life. So those are my closing thoughts. Those are my closing comments. Thanks to everyone. Thank you, Mike, for all of your thoughts today. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Same time, same place. Thank you all. Have a great day.